Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Walt here from Down the Block Sports, and today I want to talk about the Boston Celtics. The Celtics just made a move in free agency, signing a potential starting point guard. And what I want to talk about today is how much better the Celtics are after making this signing. According to multiple reports, the Boston Celtics and Dennis Schroder have agreed to a one-year, $5.9 million contract. That is a $5.9 million exception, according to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. This is crazy because Schroder came into free agency looking for a deal north of $100 million. He turned down an extension from the Lakers that would have given him 4 years and about $80 million. And now he's signing with the Boston Celtics for a one-year, $5.9 million contract. It's really not what Dennis Schroder was expecting, but you look at around the league right now, most teams who needed a point guard were very aggressive early in free agency and had other options on their team at that position. You look at Boston, it could have been, Marcus Smart, but his best role on a team is kind of that, super utility defensive type guy. He's now moving to a bench role if he remains on the team, moving Dennis Schroder into the starting lineup. Now, outside of the fact that really no other teams were interested in Schroder outside of the Celtics, Boston's actually a pretty decent spot for him. Again, you looked around the NBA, this gives him a situation to start. He's surrounded by other quality players like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, Josh Richardson. Hopefully a couple other young guards can step up and really take a role here on this season. But the ability to have a starting role around other significant players gives him the ability to kind of build a resume, prove it for this year, and hopefully earn some money in next year's free agency period. Now, the real question here is how much better are the Boston Celtics with Dennis Schroder? Now, a lot of Celtics fans who I talked to really weren't loving the fact that Marcus Smart was the starting point guard. Like I mentioned before, he's a guy who really flourishes in that energy type role, the ability to replace multiple players off the bench, play that multi-versatile defensive role, kind of defend the best player on the other team. When he tries to be someone outside of that role, you truly don't see the same Marcus Smart. He's not that super facilitator. As most of you notice, he has improved his three-point shot, but the days he shoots way too many threes, it drives Celtics fans crazy. You didn't love the fact that he was the number one starting point guard on this team. So how much better the Celtics? I think it's much nicer knowing they have a true number one point guard on this team. That isn't Marcus Smart. Again, Schroder enters the starting lineup, Smart goes to the bench, and now Smart can play that role he's more comfortable with. Now, Schroder was extremely productive last year for the Los Angeles Lakers, playing alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis. He averaged 15.4 points, 3.5 rebounds, and 5.8 assists per game. So the Celtics starting lineup did get a lot better. They have Smart back in his traditional role, and it looks like they have a team that can be pretty competitive. Now, when you look at the rest of the Celtics roster, there's a couple questions you need to answer. One, who else is going to complete this starting lineup? Schroder, Brown, Smart, Williams. Is it Horford? Do you go with another versatile guy in a Josh Richardson? That's one question that needs to be answered for this team. I think with the sheer size of this team and the amount of guard depth they have, starting someone like Richardson would make a lot of sense. Or even starting someone like Smart, having Richardson come off the bench and not having, 7 different shooting guards go off the bench. The Celtics guard depth right now is actually kind of crazy. Look at their bench right now. Peyton Pritchard, Aaron Nesmith, Chris Dunn, Romeo Langford. I feel like if they start a bigger starting lineup with someone like Horford, having so many guys coming off the bench, like even a Smart or a Richardson, it's too many guys, which also leads to the discussion. I think this puts Marcus Smart on the trade block immediately, even if it already was. Because we saw the reports that Smart was given a contract extension, 4 years, about $77 million. The fact that he hasn't put pen to paper yet, one, stuns me if that was an actual deal, and tells me that since we're a couple days after the report, if he still hasn't signed it yet, he could be on his way out the door. Now, the Celtics have so many depth options on the bench right now in regards to point guard, shooting guard, things like that, that if they were to trade Smart, I do think they would be okay. But if that report about that extension is true, I just truly can't believe that Smart hasn't signed that deal yet. But again, enough on Marcus Smart. Dennis Schroder is going to be the starting point guard again. He was expecting millions more, but he signed a one-year, $5.9 million deal with the Boston Celtics. Now, one flaw about Schroder is his playoff performance this past year wasn't amazing. Of course, the Lakers, as you remember, were the heavy favorite going into the series against the Suns, which is funny because the Suns were the 2 and the Lakers were the 7. The Suns went on to win that series, and the Lakers went packing in the first round. In that series, he averaged 14.3 points, 40% from the field, 30% from 3, 2.8 assists per game, and it really wasn't that impressive. He got COVID towards the end of the season, returned just before the playoffs, and he wasn't too much of an impact when he played for the Lakers in the postseason. Obviously, for the Celtics, you're a team that wants to play significantly better than you did last year. You know, you got the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. You played the Brooklyn Nets in the first round, lost in 5 games, and it was an embarrassing year. You know, a lot needs to change in Boston this year. Their defense needs to improve. Well, they did that, adding Al Horford, Josh Richardson. You know, we'll see what happens with Marcus Smart. Their defense is going to play a lot better next year. They need to look better coached. Well, they signed a new coach. They have Ime Udoka, who comes from a Popovich system, who will improve their defense, their versatility, their ball movement, and things like that. Like I mentioned before, the ball movement needed to be better. They moved on from Kemba Walker. You know, Dennis Schroder is a quality starting point guard. Al Horford is a big man who is a quality passer. That area of the Celtics has improved. Do I think this team's going to win the Eastern Conference? No, I don't think they have enough depth right now to do that. I think there's much better teams in the Eastern Conference. I think about a 5 or 6 would be very nice. If they can avoid a play-in game, that'd be great. I still think the Eastern Conference is better than the Celtics, but I will admit the Celtics are better right now with Dennis Schroder signing on this deal than they did it. Because now they have a true starting point guard. They have someone that moves Smart back to his traditional role and prevents Smart from having such offensive pressure on his shoulders when we see him in that role before really kind of be a net negative for the Boston Celtics. So again, questions still need to be answered for this team. Who's going to finish in the starting lineup? What's going to happen with Marcus Smart? But the Celtics got a very quality point guard on this team, someone who's likely going to start for only $5.9 million. That's a great move for this starting lineup. Schroeder's going to fill a lot of spots that this team needs in that starting point guard role. They are a significantly better team today. Hopefully they can flip Smart for someone who can be a productive role player for this team as they try and make a run in the East. But Celtics fans should be very happy right now that Schroder is on the team. Because I don't know about you, but I didn't trust Smart in that starting role. I can trust that Schroder will be very productive with Smart coming off the bench. That's going to be it for my reaction to the Boston Celtics signing Dennis Schroder. What do you think of the signing? Feel free to comment that below. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Down the Block Sports for more of my exclusive content. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you very soon.